Hello, everyone. Welcome to the live stream. We are in the pre-show for about 10 minutes. So if you're watching this on the replay, you can fast forward about 10 minutes and you'll be good to go. If you're watching live, you're stuck with me for the next 10 minutes. Let's flip over and update the website, shall we? Which link is that? It's this one right here. Let's update the website. Tell everyone that we're live. I could probably put this in the chat room too. Security Plus Study Group. Live Security Plus Study Group. So people know that it's a live study group. Because this could be not live. Or if you're watching on the replay, it is not live. But I can't do anything about that. Let's change our settings for the promo bar. We're clicking around. You're looking at this from the bird cam. It's above my shoulder. My free Security Plus Study Group is right now. Click here to join us, and it's a /live. And save the changes. And we've got about 3 minutes until all the notifications go out, and then 5 minutes after that we start. So we're in pretty good shape here. That looks good. That's as good. Get things going on here. Recordings are going here. Recordings are going down here. See the Cylons are going, as they should be. We've got presentation. Let's get the presentation up. Does it work? That's working too. So we got the presentation all up and running. Let's do a camera check, shall we? I'm a little low in the saddle. Let's see if we can... Whoa, how's that? That's even lower. What happened? Oh, no. Okay, I think that's just going to be how it is right there. Look, my monitor's in the way. See my monitor right here? That's got to go away. There we go. High tech right there. It's like it's not even there. That's what it was. It was right here, and then I did this. It's magic. It's Hollywood magic. So that is just so low in the chair. I don't know what's going on here. I'm going to have you look at this while I gesticulate wildly and try to get this up and running. Okay, it's the little things. Let's see if this looks a little better. That does look a little better. See? You just got to pull and yank it and move it here and do all that stuff. Camera 3, camera 4, camera 3, camera 4. What just beeped? Something just beeped. That we cannot have. I think it was my Discord. My Discord was doing that. Discord has now gone away. So Discord won't do that anymore. And I guess I could just turn off that completely. So that's what I just did. And what else we got? We got this, we got that. I think we're in pretty good shape. I don't remember any of the questions. All right. Hello, Raza, in the chat room. If you have questions about Security Plus, you've come to the right place. Because it's the Security Plus Study Group. Brought to you by, well, me. Brought to you by you. Been able to get a lot done here. What else we got going on? I need to click things here that you can't see. Clickety click. We've got, what is this thing? I've got to click some things here. Practice questions. We can do this. We can do this. Boom. Another satisfied customer. Whoa. Keynote just freaked out. Don't like that. Oh, didn't check the graphic. Is the graphic working? Yes, it is. It's all right. Wow, you got a lot going there in the chat room there, David. There's a whole lot happening there. I don't know that I have time to read through all of this. But I do have a video on public and private keys. Sender encrypts data with symmetric key. No, nope, it's already wrong. It's already wrong. So go back to public and private keys. There is no symmetric key when you're talking about public and private keys. There is a lot happening here. Oh, the things going on. You don't see it. All you see is this. You see the live stream. But when you're not here, there's a lot going on. There's a lot happening. All right. What else do we have to get done? Well, let's see. The notification should have gone out. We could probably check on the YouTube and make sure that people are indeed attending. And you are. Welcome. There you go. I can see exactly when that happened. A lot of you already subscribed to the channel, so you know when we go live. And it informs you that we are indeed live. Did I send the live link? Yes, that went out on the tweeter. Let's check the tweeter real quick. Nope, tweeter's exactly the way I left it. So that's fine too, which means the email should have gone out as well. So welcome everyone. We're in the chat room on professormesser.com/live. Really need a lower third for that while we're in the pre-show. What else is going on? The sender knows the public asymmetric key of the receiver because the receiver sends it to the sender or gets it to the sender in some way, because the public key is public and anybody can have access to it without any concern that data will be in danger. Everything remains safe. Link for the pre-questions, professormesser.com/QA. It's on the page, professormesser.com/live. Should have a link to that, but it's professormesser.com/QA, Quebec Alpha, question, answer. I'm running out of Q&A things to say. What happened here with my thing there? That was weird. That was awfully odd. Let's click that thing. The idea in the chat room, for those of you on the replay or those of you in the chat room, we're talking about public and private key encryption. Part of the problem I think a lot of people have is that you can give the public key to everybody and they will encrypt data with the public key. And although everybody else has the public key, they can't decrypt it with the public key. You can encrypt it with the public key, but you can't decrypt it with the public key. And that's just crazy. How is that even possible? And yet that's exactly why it's asymmetric encryption. That's why it's so powerful and so useful and what we use every day to do what we do on the intertubes. I'm glad you asked about the link for the online questions. Q&A. ProfessorMesser.com/QA. And we're about ready. Less than a minute to go. 2 timeouts left. They are in the bonus. What else we got going on? Why does this feel weird? Why does my shirt feel weird? Does it look weird? No weirder than usual. Looks exactly as weird as it always is. Hello, Steven. Hello, Steve. Howdy. Welcome to the chat room. Welcome to this chat room. Usually you're in the other chat room. Welcome to this chat room. All right. Top of the hour for me. You're still a few seconds behind, but whatever. That doesn't mean anything. Here we go. Let's begin. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the July 2017 Professor Messer Security Plus Study Group brought to you from the headquarters of Messer Studios here in Tallahassee, Florida. I will be your host. My name is James Messer, and throughout this hour, I will be giving you questions coming directly from the CompTIA Security Plus exam objectives, and we're going to online all participate together. You'll be able to answer this in a survey-type form that I have online, and we'll see how we do. See if these questions are as difficult as I hopefully have made them for you. During this hour of Q&A, we'll be doing exclusively questions and answers and explanations around these things. I'll be taking comments from the chat room, which you will find at professormesser.com/live if you are watching this in real time as we're doing it live. And during the second hour, I open up the phone lines. It's more of a casual after show. You can ask anything about anything in the after show, and you'll be just fine. I'm able to have this study group thanks to your support. Of course, all of my Security Plus videos are available to watch online, absolutely free, every minute of every single video. That's crazy, but there it is. They're all out there. And one of the things a lot of people do, though, is they like to have versions to take with them when they are not online. So I sell versions of that are available that include the high-definition videos with closed captioning, which is exactly what you see online as well. There's audio versions. That's something you don't get online, MP3 versions. And then I've got my course notes that I put in there. We'll talk more about the course notes in a bit. If you're following what we're doing here at Messer Studios, then you probably are watching some of our social network accounts, things like Twitter, things like YouTube, things like Instagram. Just type in professormesser.com/ the name of the social media thing you would like to find me on. So /Twitter, /YouTube, /Instagram, /Facebook, /whatever that happens to be. And you will find it. Also, a reminder here is you definitely want to go back there. This is important. professormesser.com/vouchers and get 10% off your voucher. If you are a student with an EDU account, you're probably going to go to the academic store and get a huge discount. But those of us that do not have an EDU account can use this link to get a discount off your CompTIA voucher purchase at professormesser.com/vouchers. I also have free Q&A all the time, 24/7, available on my website at professormesser.com/popquiz. One word, pop quiz. Pop quiz. That's the one where I think if you ever are looking at trying to figure out ways to get some more Q&A, that's a good way to do it. I like going through, I've got sections of 20 questions set up here. There's really hundreds of questions here for A+, Network Plus, Security Plus. There's a lot there. So absolutely go through and have a look at that. I also want to make you aware that this event is available to watch on the replay immediately after we are done here. There's nothing for me to upload. It's just immediately available. Some of you would like an audio-only version, and so there is one at professormesser.com/podcasts. Podcasts. The podcast link will give you audio-only versions. I put those out usually the same day, sometimes the day after, so that you can get your pod-catching program to automatically download those and have them available. And I understand podcasting is back. I didn't know it went anywhere. So that's one of those things you need to think about. Maybe you like that audio-only as you're driving along. That's a good way to do it. Save you some bandwidth. Now, I will be asking questions of you today, so make sure that you go online right now. Open up a new window, or on the Professor Messer website, you'll see the link to this, professormesser.com/QA. It takes you directly to the questions. It's one screen. You don't have to change anything. You just sit right there for the duration, and the questions will update themselves automatically on your screen, and you'll be able to answer them interactively. Now, if you're watching this in a replay, this QA is not available. Sorry about that. But if you are here live, and you should be, go to professormesser.com/calendar. Find out when the next live event is, and you can play along as well. If you're using the app, then absolutely use this app and go to the room Professor Messer, all one word, PROFESSORMESSER. So another nice thing to have there. And we'll be talking about a lot of QA during today. But the first question has nothing to do with Security Plus. This is really me asking you a question to see if you're in the chat room, or in the Q&A room, if you will, the Socrative room. So if you are in the Socrative room, you will see a question there, and the question is, which of the following is the most popular hot dog topping? Sure this isn't a security question? I guess it could be. So the options available to you are ketchup, relish, mustard, onions, and chili. And right now, Ketchup is winning. 44% of people voting have said ketchup. 41% have said mustard. It's really a tie for first, though, isn't it? That's effectively the same number of people. Relish and chili and onions are bringing up the rear at only single digits, 7, 5, and 3% respectively. So that's one of the challenges in being able to make that work. What is the best hot dog topping out there? So if you can see this screen, that means your Q&A is working. You don't have to change the screen. You're in the right place. If you're in a room and there's no questions there and you're not seeing anything, then you didn't do something right. Go to ProfessorMesser.com/QA, or if you're in the app, make sure that you go to the room, Professor Messer, all one word, ProfessorMesser. Now, if you did answer this question, there actually is an answer for it. Although, I guess the answer is really relative to you, isn't it? The most popular hot dog topping is the one you like the most. But there was a survey done, and here's the survey. The survey right here. The answers are 71% of people say mustard is the most popular. People put the ones that they use the most on there. That's why these don't add up to 100%. You can see mustard number one at 71%, 52% said ketchup, 47% said onions, 45 chili, and 41 relish. Almost exactly what we had, although ketchup seems to have taken quite the lead online. We can see where you folks are. That comes directly from, there is a hot dog and sausage council in Washington, D.C. And the reason I bring up this question is today, July the 19th, 2017, as we are here and recording live, is National Hot Dog Day, as deemed by that same group of Hot Dog and Sausage Council Association people there in Washington. Of course, the entire month of July is Hot Dog Month. So what a great month to be doing things. Let's shift gears a little bit past the hot dogs because I'm getting a little hungry, and let's talk about Security Plus. The latest Security Plus version is the SY0401. This was released in April of 2014, and CompTIA said we will be retiring the questions on this exam in July of 2018. So a year from now, the 401 exam is going away. That means for the next 12 months, I will be asked the question, when does the 401 exam retire? And the answer is July of 2018, it is retired. Now, what CompTIA does is there's an overlap period. There's a new set of questions that are going to be coming out, and those questions are the SY0501 version of questions. They're going to release that in October of this year. So just a few months from now, you will see a new exam. So that means from October to July of next year, you'll be able to take either exam. So there's a nice 9-month overlap there. One of the challenges you'll find, though, is as soon as that new exam comes out, that's a whole new set of exam objectives. It's difficult to find study materials for that. And that's why I will usually tell people, don't wait for a new version. Take the existing version of the questions. You've got a year to study to pass the exam. If you're looking at the exam right now, do not wait for the 501 set of questions. Take the 401 set of questions, because whether you pass the 401 or the 501, those are just the questions. The certification you get is exactly the same, which is the Security Plus certification. So it doesn't matter which questions you take. What really matters is, did you get a Security Plus certification? Never wait to get certified, which is really the most important point here. There's all upside, all benefit to you being certified. There is no benefit for you not being certified. So that's pretty important to be able to do that. The Security Plus exam, whether it is the 401 or if you end up taking the 501 at some point, there is just a single exam you have to take to get your Security Plus certification. It's about 90 minutes long. You get a possible maximum of 90 questions. It may be fewer than that. The passing score is a 750 in a range between 100 and 900. And if that seems odd, it's because it is. They intentionally make it a little unusual to grade this, I guess, so people can't copy it. And being able to do that, it is a multiple choice test, and there's also what CompTIA calls performance-based questions. Performance-based questions are anything that's not multiple choice. So they might ask you a fill in the blank. They might ask you to put things in order from highest to lowest or fastest to slowest. They might give you a list of things on the screen and tell you to match them to another list of things. There's a lot of different questions they might ask you, and they usually ask these questions at the beginning of the exam so that you'll get a big chunk of those and then the rest of the questions will be multiple choice. You can jump around all over the place on the exam. So if you wanted to skip all of those and come back to them later, you could do that as well. You have a lot of options there of things that you can do. Let's get to the questions, though. I have questions for you today for Security Plus, and the first question I'm going to give you is a performance-based question. So here we go with our performance-based question. I want you to match the application use to the port numbers. So I've got a set of port numbers here, and I've got a set of applications. And so you can see that there are different port numbers and there's different applications here. Notice I'm not asking you what the port numbers mean, what protocols associated with them. I want to know how you use them. And you can see if you want to answer this online, it's a fill in the blank. If you think they're correct as they are on the screen, which they're not, but if you think they are, you would put 1A, 2B, 3C, and 4D. Be able to do those back and forth. But these are not, I can tell you now, in that order. That'd be too easy, wouldn't it? So I want you to tell me online with the answers coming through on Socrative what they are. So we have TCP 25, TCP 22, TCP 143, and UDP 53. And in those, I'm asking you which one is retrieving mail from an email server, which one is converting a domain name to an IP address, which one is encrypted terminal communication, and which one is transferring email between servers. Now, what you should be able to do is look at those descriptions of the applications. You really shouldn't need the prompting of what the port numbers are. You should know the port numbers right offhand. People really get wrapped around the axle with port numbers on these exams, mostly because I think a lot of us haven't worked with port numbers a lot. This is an opportunity for you to learn more about this as well. When you start working with firewalls, intrusion prevention devices, and being able to put your firewalls in line and being able to set rules on your firewall, you'll be using these port numbers all the time. They're going to be automatic. You'll know immediately when you start working with these things what those port numbers are, and many more that you are not even going to see on the exam. They're just an automatic part of what you remember now and they're in your head. But for the exam, you need to make sure you know about this. As you're answering that in the chat room, somebody said, I'm taking the test tomorrow, and they said it's 135 minutes long. Well, the process of starting the exam, having plenty of time to read through and approve and agree to the candidate agreement takes up time, and it's counted in that time. You do not have 135 minutes to answer the questions. You have 90 minutes to answer the questions, 135 minutes to be sitting in the chair, possibly. A lot of people will just look at the candidate agreement, scroll to the bottom, and hit OK. Well, there's 15 minutes gone. So it's one of those types of things. You get 90 minutes. Don't be fooled into thinking you're going to get 135 minutes. You are not to be able to do that. So some of you are sending in your answers. A lot of you are sending your answers. Now I'm going to scroll through and see how we're doing. I'm looking at the answer myself. Well, this had to be a good question. Oh, a number of you are getting these right. A number of you are taking a stab at it. Good for you. Most of you are getting this right, as a matter of fact. And it's another important thing to remember on the exam is you want to take a guess. Do not leave a question blank before you submit your exam to be graded. Blank questions don't help you. Even if you got it wrong, they don't count against you. It's not like they take points away if you get it wrong. They don't do that. So what you want to do is at least try to get some of these right. Let's see how we did with this one. I think many of you have answered. Let's see how many have submitted answers. At this point, a good chunk of you have submitted answers. The rest of you will need to Google faster next time with these. Try not to Google. Try to guess. This is a guess. This is definitely a guess question. This is a time for you to see just how much you know. Let's see what the answer is. Let's go to the next slide here. Here is the answer. TCP 25 matches D, transferring email between servers. That is SMTP, the protocol most commonly seen for that. The other is TCP 22, encrypted terminal communication. C is what that is associated with, which would also be SSH. The next answer for TCP 143 corresponds to A, retrieving mail from an email server. That is also IMAP. For those of you familiar with TCP 143, that's what that one is referring to most commonly. And UDP 53. UDP 53 is number 4, matches B, convert a domain name to an IP address. That is DNS, domain name system. So all of these protocols, the applications behind the protocols, and the port numbers are pretty important on the exam. They are specifically listed out on the exam objectives. I only give you 4 of them. There's many, many more. Make sure you know what those are. And if you have a chance to set up a firewall and send some traffic through it and trace the information and capture packets and view the port numbers, that can be useful as well. So make sure that you go through and familiar out those. For those of you in the chat room saying, hey, but you get partial credit for half-right answers. No, you don't. You do not. In fact, CompTIA has said only on very, very rare occasions of their performance-based questions are you even going to possibly get partial credit. So it sounds like what CompTIA is doing is you never get partial credit, except maybe in a very certain situation, very specific situation. So don't think you're going to get partial credit when you take some of these questions. You're probably not. You're most likely not going to get partial credit. So make sure that you answer as best as your ability to have that there. Becomes pretty important too, to have that there. And so hopefully you were able to answer this question. This is another good example, by the way, of these questions not being very direct. They're asking you about how this technology is used, how this technology is implemented. And that's the one that really becomes important when you're looking at working through these problems. Otherwise, they would just say, match the port number to the protocol, which really doesn't help you very much. It's just a memorization. But if you've learned what the protocol does, you've worked with it hands-on, you've got some familiarity with the technology behind it, it's much more valuable. It's much more valuable in certification as well. Let's do another question. Let's get those there for those and being able to work through it. Here's our next question. Which of the following is the primary attack vector of a WPS attack? Which of the following is a primary attack vector of a WPS attack? Remember, no answering in the chat room, but we're going to look at possible answers here. So our possible answers are A, a vulnerable encryption protocol. It would be B, a limited pin size. It would be C, easy to DOS. D would be susceptible to MITM. And E is a limited buffer size. One of these would be the primary attack vector of a WPS attack. There's a lot of attacks we have to know for Security Plus. There's even more you have to know for the latest, the 501 that will be coming out soon. But you have to know a lot in the current 401, and this is one that you really do need to understand the differences as to what those primary attack vectors are. Notice this also is asking you for the primary attack vector. This attack may have different attack vectors, but we're really looking for the primary one. So if somebody is saying, somebody wants to know, what's an attack vector? Well, we already got a problem. There's already a challenge. What is the vector, Victor? And we've already got to work through some of those. If you think you know the answer, don't answer in the chat room. You want to go to professormesser.com/QA. You want to be able to go through all of those and answer it right there on your screen in real time. If you're watching this in the replay, obviously, you'll just have to follow along. There's nothing to see when you go to professormesser.com/QA. Maybe that would be something you can work through. Finally, got somebody with the airplane quotes. There's and I did see Kareem Abdul-Jabbar in the airport just a month or so ago on a trip. I was a little fangirl there. I didn't say anything to him, but it was kind of cool to see him go through security. Had to way down and get through security. But it was pretty cool. Everybody, us and TSA folks were geeking out over seeing Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. Just to bring that whole airplane reference full circle. Glad I was able to do that. Whenever I start looking at problems with Security Plus, it's about understanding what's happening under the surface. So you want to be sure that you are able to understand things like WPS and what it was doing, and being able to really understand how this works. And this is going to help you answer questions like this one. Let's see how we did on this one. Well, we've got 41% said that it's a vulnerable encryption protocol. 29% said a limited pin size. 19% said that is susceptible to man-in-the-middle attacks. And then single digits for easy to DOS, which is a denial of service. And 5% said a limited buffer size. Now, I try to get at least half of you to get this one right. I wasn't successful this time. So let's talk about WPS and what this is. If you've used WPS before, it is a way to easily, quote unquote, easily be able to connect devices to a secure wireless network. That was the idea anyway, being able to work through WPS, but we ran into a few problems when working through WPS, and most of them, WPS being this Wi-Fi protected setup is what it stands for, but unfortunately, the Wi-Fi protected setup has a significant design flaw associated with it. And that is, from the very beginning, it had a problem. Interestingly enough, they knew from the very beginning this was an issue. When you go back and read through the things that were there. The problem primarily is that this PIN number, instead of having to remember some weird passphrase to get into the wireless network, all you had to know is an eight-digit PIN, a personal identification number. This 8-digit PIN wasn't very big. It was actually 7 digits because the last digit was really a checksum. Well, that greatly decreased the number of possible numbers it could be. Really only about 10 million possible combinations, just under that. One less than that. So what people were able to do was look at how this was designed. It was actually 2 separate PIN numbers, a 4-digit PIN and a 3-digit PIN, to make it even easier. So instead of having to go through 10 million possible combinations, we only had to go through really 10,000 for the first 4 numbers and 1,000 for the last 3. So only 11,000 numbers that we had to know. What a horrible design. You know how easy it was to cycle through all 11,000? Didn't take long at all. If you were able to do this on an insecure wireless access point, you would be able to do this in about 4 hours. Very, very easy to make this happen. This is one where nobody even thought people would do this. So most of those early access points didn't even have a way to lock things out. Now, later on, the lockout process was implemented on a number of wireless access points, but most security professionals have said, just don't use WPS, even with a lockout or a delay. All that does is delay people from getting into your network. And at the end of the day, WPS is pretty bad in the way that it works as well. It's a problem with the number of available PINs, the personal identification number. So unfortunately, 40%, not a majority, but most of the people who answered did say that it was a vulnerable encryption protocol. In fact, there was no encryption protocol associated with this at all. But as many of you in the chat room have already said, oh, I was thinking of WEP. The WEP encryption was the one that had bad encryption associated with it. Yes, but I was talking about WPS right there and not WEP. So it would not be a vulnerable encryption protocol. It's not something where it's easy to denial of service, although wireless in general is fairly easy to provide denial of service on. That is not the primary attack vector of a WPS attack. Susceptible to man in the middle, WPS has nothing to do with man in the middle. There is some man in the middle that could happen if you were doing WPS wirelessly. So something like that on there. And a limited buffer size, WPS attack had nothing to do with a limited buffer size. In fact, the answer was B, a limited PIN size. The personal identification number, those 4 digits and 3 digits, 11,000 numbers to go through. Not very many when you're working through that. 30% of you got this one absolutely right. If you answered B, you were spot on with understanding WPS and what the problem is. Now, if you did not get it right, that's still okay. Now we've learned something. Now you're ready on the exam when a question about WPS comes up, and now you know everything you need to know to be able to answer that question on the exam. Let's get through another question. Remember, no answering in the chat room. I've got a question for you, and the question, which of the following would be most associated with fuzzing? Which of the following would be most associated with fuzzing? The possible answers are that A, an authentication packets are replayed. B, packets are modified by what we know now as a man in the middle. C, a hash is compared to a rainbow table entry. D is that a random input is sent to an application. And E is that someone on the phone pretends to be a member of the help desk. One of those, and being able to work through it, deal with fuzzing, working through fuzzing. Yes, it is not, F is not my goatee, although it is kind of fuzzy. Not as fuzzy, I don't know. It's well taken care of. It's not as fuzzy as it has been. Always the day before the study groups, I have to neaten things up. So maybe you know the answer. And if you do know the answer, you can go to professormesser.com/QA and you can go through here and work through the fuzzing. How's WPS not a Wi-Fi standard? WPS is part of the Wi-Fi standard. So that is what's even more frustrating about all of this, is that it was part. I think it's probably been deprecated at this point. That's probably not one that you want to get into. I'm going to take a sneak peek at how we're doing with fuzzing. Maybe some of you have fuzzed before or worked through fuzzing. Some of you are having questions about the video, if your video is starting and stopping, or if you're having problems with synchronization. Unfortunately, it's all on your side. I'm so sorry. We've got great synchronization here. The numbers look really good on this side. And what I do is I send everything to YouTube. YouTube then splits it out into different streams. So you might even want to try a different stream. Maybe you're on the 720p stream. Maybe you want to go down to a smaller stream and being able to work through that. But I don't handle the stream between you and YouTube. So if it's delaying and doing things badly for you, unfortunately, that's all about your connection to YouTube, because you don't connect to me. I don't connect to you. Not that I don't want to, but that's just the way we do it. And YouTube does a good job with this. Let's see how the answers are with fuzzing, now that most of you have Googled it. So I was trying to figure out what Google. I try to get to questions so you wouldn't be able to Google. This time we did get a majority. A majority of 62% said that D, random input, is sent to an application. But is that the right answer? Did we do it right? Is it? So because we have maybe a tie for second is A, authentication packets are replayed, and E, someone on the phone pretends to be a member of the help desk. And then probably a tie for third would be B, packets are modified by a man in the middle, or C, a hash is compared to a rainbow table entry. All of these things, by the way, are legitimate security things that can be associated with all of this. So that is one where I think that becomes pretty handy to know what each one of these things are, because all of these things are associated with some technique associated with it to attacks or preventing attacks. But let's see what fuzzing is about. We need to know more about the fuzzing part. Fuzzing is indeed where you just send some random data into an application, because sometimes people in the application, people who develop the application, don't plan for bad things to happen. Let me get my head out of the way, and you'll see I'm really talking about fault injecting, robustness testing, syntax testing, negative testing. All of these things are the same term for fuzzing. So fuzzing is the term for all of those things. You're really just throwing junk at an application, and you're hoping to see the application not be able to handle it. This is something that would be crashing the application. It would be causing an error message to pop up. Maybe you can get it to tell you, give you a memory dump, which the hackers love to get memory dumps because they really get to see what's going on in the memory for that application and being able to work through it. This is a coding problem. You should, as a developer, not you, but people who are on the computer science side who are writing these applications, they should be doing all types of input cleaning. They should be syntax checking everything that is put into this application. There's an interesting fuzz generator that you can download from the University of Wisconsin, the Operating System Utility Program Reliability. It's the fuzz generator. You can find that online and run your own fuzzing. There's plenty of fuzzing that you can do with your own applications to watch what happens when you start throwing things. And it's an automated process that just automatically goes through this enormous set of cycles to an application to see if they can break it. Very interesting to see that happen. And it's one that you'll very often run into. So indeed, if you answer, the 63% of people that answered D, random input is sent to an application, absolutely correct. Authentication packets are replayed. That would be more of a replay attack, assuming the authentication packets are available for you to do that. Packets are modified by a man in the middle. Well, that's more of a man in the middle. It's kind of a redundancy. The hash is compared to rainbow table entry. That's more of a brute force attack, although there's not much to brute force if you already have a rainbow table. And someone on the phone pretends to be a member of the help desk. Well, that's just plain old being able to work around the technology and being able to work through social engineering. And that's something that no technology is able to stop, is that social engineering part. Well, don't worry if you didn't get this one right. There's plenty of things to learn when it deals with fuzzing, and maybe you'll get to see in my video, I actually run through a fuzzing example, so you'll be able to see someone do it, even if you don't do it yourself. But there's so much on the Security Plus exam. It is an enormous exam, and I've got an enormous number of videos. And one of the things that I've done is I've gone through every single one of my videos, and I've written down the notes for you. I've taken every comment from every slide, every graphic, everything I've got in these videos, and I've put them into one document. You, of course, could absolutely go through these videos, all 250 plus of them, and make your own notes. And I highly recommend that you do exactly that. But sometimes you don't have time to do it. Maybe like a single place. And this, of course, is a single place where everything is available for you at with my Security Plus course notes. You can find out about these at professormesser.com/securitycn for security course notes. These course notes they're big, they're extensive. Let me bring some up on the screen so you can get a feel for what these are like. These are the Security Plus course notes. This is the PDF version. I've just taken everything, the graphics, the design of it, the text. I didn't leave anything out. There were a few words here and there. There's an and and a the somewhere that didn't make it. But everything else is in here. It just goes on and on and on. It's only $10. So it's something goes back to keeping the website up and running and having that there. There's also now a version of this that is on paper. It's an actual book. What? So it is exactly the same thing as the course notes. There's a table of contents in here. You'll be able to go through and bang your... you can't really see it very well with all the light, so sorry about that. There really is text here. There, it looks a little bit better. Not washed out from the floods that are right in front of me, but it's all here. All those same things you just saw are in the book, and it's something that I just ship right to you. And when you buy the book, by the way, you get the PDF version too. So it's kind of a combo. So you can take the book along with you, but also have a PDF version that you can put on your mobile device and have that with you as well. You can find out all about those. The course notes do have tables of contents in them. So those in the chat room said, table of contents, that's great. Yes, the table of contents are in fact, let me go to the top of my PDF version here. This is exactly the same one that you get if I go to the right screen. So there's table of contents of the PDF version. They're all in here. Now the PDF, by the way, all of the course notes and everything in here has the objective number associated with it. So you can go maybe to the end of the course notes. You can see what objective number is associated with PKI, and certificate management is number 6.3. So there's a lot that I did when I put these into a physical form. I wanted to bring everything and put everything in there. So if you downloaded an early version of the course notes, log back into your member account, download the latest version. I've even updated them further. By doing that, you can find out all about this at professormesser.com/securitycn. And every bit of this goes to keeping the website running. So all the videos are free to watch, but I have a lot of money that is spent on the multiple web servers, load balancers, reverse proxies, security devices, and everything else that keeps all of this running constantly. And it's just another way to give back. I don't do a Patreon. I don't take donations. I prefer that you get something for your money. This is one way that we do that, by going to professormesser.com/securitycn and checking out my Security Plus course notes. I want to thank everyone for that. We were talking about video earlier for those. Some of you have asked, am I going to be supporting higher resolutions in the future? I'd love to do 1080 because that's what I'm really doing natively here. Some of the replays that I've put out on the website are indeed 1080. All of my videos online are 1080. This live event is not, just because of the technology that I'm using to actually stream it. But I am looking at being able to do some higher resolutions with these. So maybe we'll be able to do that coming up shortly. I've got some ideas on how to make that happen. Probably not going to do 4K. Nobody wants to see this in 4K, I assure you. Let's do another question, though. Got one for you. Here is the question. Remember, no answering in the chat room. The question is, which of the following would be the best way to administratively restrict the installation of unapproved applications? Sounds like something good to know from a security perspective. Which of these would be the best way to administratively restrict the installation of unapproved applications? A mouthful by itself. The options are A, role-based file permissions, B, strong password policies, C, application hashing, D, group policy, E, smart card authentication. Well, it's got to be one of those for there to be able to do this. So maybe you know what the answer is. No answering in the chat room. You instead want to go to professormesser.com/QA and being able to do this. This actually is not a gimme question. This is a little deeper than you might think it is in being able to work through it. And this is one, if you do think it's a gimme question, good for you. You'll get it right. But that's one of those challenges on the Network Plus exam, the Security Plus exam. There's a ton of content on Security Plus. That's why the course notes are so big. They're monstrous in size. The course notes, how many questions, how many pages? 46 pages once you put everything in there with the table of contents and everything else, being able to work through them. It becomes more of a challenge. So if you know the answer, go to professormesser.com/QA. Yeah, I'm a little 50-50 on this question too. Being able to do this. If you've never had to administer a network or allow or restrict applications, there's a lot of ways to do it. But the question I gave you is which would be the best way. It's that best word that's always thrown in there that makes it a little crazy. So you do have to go through and really understand all of these different answers and know which one of these would be preferable over another one. That's one you want to do. Of course, there's so many different ways to do this. I just gave you a sample, just a little bit of how you would do this in the answers. But there are other ways to restrict and allow or prevent different applications from working as well. Some of you in the chat room are asking, how long is the set of Security Plus videos I have? Total, if you put them end to end, 19 hours. So there's a lot of video there. The Security Plus is a big exam. So it's one of those you do have to know a lot about. It's a lot of videos and a lot of content. And there's probably even more that's coming on the 501. I expect it will probably be bigger if I look at the content. We'll have to see. I never know until I'm finished whether it's going to be bigger. 19 hours is a lot of time to sit there and go through this content, even if you're speeding it up at 1.5 times speed, which is a lot of people will do that. No, I didn't say 9. I said 19. It's big. It's like a whole day to sit there and do that. And there's other courses I've seen that are even bigger. I can't imagine sitting through bigger. I want to give you exactly what you need to know for the exam. No more, no less, and being able to make that happen. Let's see how we did with this question. Which would be the best way to administratively restrict the installation of unapproved applications? How would we do it? Well, let's see what you said. 67% of you said group policy. 23% said role-based file permissions. 1% said strong password policies. 8% said application hashing, and 1% said smart card authentication. Well, this is one that's going to really make some people frustrated in being able to work through a lot of these things. There's actually the best way to make some of these happen, maybe not the best way that you might be thinking, but unapproved applications is usually a large group of things. And one way that you could set and configure settings for what people can do, especially in the Windows environment, is to use Windows group policy to make this happen. So you can go through many different settings to be able to make this work. The reason group policy is probably the best answer to be able to handle these things is that it is so centralized to the operating system. It's integrated into the OS. Everything is going in and out of group policy. It's there whether you use it or not. Being able to make that work is a pretty important part. You can control permissions. You can link to Active Directory. You can set up all kinds of different restrictions, capabilities, limit by user, limit by group, and do a lot of different things. One of these is to set up different requirements for how applications are used, what fonts are in use. Being able to make all of those things can be incredibly useful. If you're not familiar with group policy, it is a great way to be able to control what's really happening on the client workstation. So for this answer, you could have actually gone a couple of different ways. Windows also has a way built into it that you could create things like an application hash, and you add additional application controls to it. So the 7% of you that said application, not entirely wrong. That is certainly a valid way to restrict the running of an application. But this wasn't, the question wasn't about running an application. The question was about restricting the installation of unapproved applications. And from the group policy perspective, one of the things you can do is to completely remove the ability to add or remove programs. So that is exactly one of the things that you would look at doing. Application hashing, great for preventing an application from running, but generally you don't do that with the installation program. Usually you do it with the application itself, and that was not the question. So in that case, probably not the right answer as much as we would like it to be. Role-based file permissions, that's not going to help you very much when it comes to installing the applications themselves, because we can't exactly do role-based file permissions everywhere. And applications can be installed almost anywhere and being able to work through it. Smart card authentication, only 1% of you chose that one. Strong password policies have nothing to do with installation of unapproved applications. It absolutely is going to be what everybody said, 68%, almost everybody, a large group of you said indeed it was D, group policy. And you would be absolutely right. Some of you must be working in a Microsoft environment to choose group policy in that and have that there. If you're watching this video for continuing education credit, maybe you already have your Security Plus certification, you'd like to get some CEUs. I think you can collect 10 for a webinar-based event. You can do that by following this exact set of steps. If you don't follow these steps, you don't get the CEU. So you go to the top or the bottom of the Professor Messer website, you click on the Contact Us link, and in that form you put your name, your email address, you specify that this is the July 2017 Security Plus study group, and this is just an email sent to me. So you can put anything in there, but I'm looking for you to put a special word in there somewhere that says group policy. And if you put group policy in there somewhere, then I will send you back a continuing education unit. Can you get the CEU before you get the cert? No, CompTIA will not allow you to collect CEUs before you are officially certified. But some of you use these CEUs for other things as well. So that's another place you can go to. Maybe some of you use these at work. Maybe you have a different certification you're trying to get CEUs for, and you can use these for that as well. I'm more than happy to send you back an email that's certified that you must have watched this because you were able to know and understand the secret word of this month, which is group policy. So a great way to maybe accumulate some CEUs as we go through this. Let's accumulate another question. That doesn't even make sense. The question is, which of these best describes the use of HMAC? Which of these does best describe it? Which of these, what has happened to me? Which of these best describes the use of HMAC? Maybe we know HMAC. These CEUs are good for Network Plus, because Network Plus does have security in it. These CEUs are good for A+, because A+ has security in it, and the content that you're watching has to correlate back to one of the exam objectives on the exam you're getting the CEU for. So it could possibly be that. I'm glad somebody in the chat room can appreciate all of those. Which of these best describes the use of HMAC? Would it be A, verify data sent over an IPsec tunnel? Would it be B, encrypt a file stored on a flash drive? Would it be C, enable full disk encryption for laptop storage? Would it be D, encrypt data with a private key and decrypt it with a public key? Or would it be E, protect credit card data sent to a web server? Which of these would best describe the use of HMAC? Which of them best describe the use of HMAC? That would be good to know. So for the Security Plus exam, since we were talking renewals, CompTIA renewal, to be able to do that, if you have your Security Plus exam, you can begin to accumulate these CEUs. And for the exam, let's see what the Security Plus exam requires from a CEU perspective. If we accumulate continuing education units, I'm clicking through. For Security Plus, you need 50 CEUs. So that's one. Somebody in the chat room said somebody needs 100 CEUs. Not for any of the CompTIA exams. Maybe that's a different exam they're working through, but nobody needs 100 for any of the CompTIA exams. There's also a lot of different ways to renew. Maybe don't collect CEUs. There's different things you can do. Make sure you check out the website over on the CompTIA side and being able to do that. Which of these best describe? I'm going to take a sneak peek. while you guys are answering the HMAC question, figuring out those pieces. Also in the chat room, people are saying, is there a Cisco video series coming? I don't know quite yet. There is obviously my ICND1 Cisco course notes that are available, but I'm currently working on the Security Plus update. At the moment, I want to have the Security Plus videos updated before the end of the year. There's a lot of new content, so we're working through that one and being able to have that there. No Googling the HMAC. I can see the numbers accumulating on my side. I know when you know this because the numbers go up immediately. I know when you don't know this because it goes a lot slower. I can tell what people are out there. Let me Google HMAC. Let's see what that is. And maybe you figure it out, but I'm not asking for the definition of HMAC, which becomes a little bit harder to be able to do this. Being able to make that happen. So maybe you know HMAC. Let's see how we did on this one. Let's hit the button. Well, let's see. 38% of us said it verifies data sent over an IPsec tunnel. Still not half of us. I like to get 50% because just behind it at 31% is encrypt data with a private key and decrypt with a public key. So really we're kind of torn between A and D there. 14%, really a tie for third, would be C, enable full disk encryption for laptop storage, and E, protect credit card data sent to a web server. And single digits of folks said encrypt a file that was stored on a flash drive. Yes, and if you had no idea what HMAC is, well, then you're taking a guess at this. Let's figure out right now what HMAC is. HMAC is the hash-based message authentication code. It's exactly what that is. It's a way to encrypt and verify data. It's a hash. It's a hash with some encryption. So you're able to send the encrypted data through and see that nothing was changed with that encrypted data as it came through. Being able to have that there. HMAC is a pretty important thing. We see it used quite a bit to send some data and be able to make sure the data is exactly how it was sent. So you've got data integrity, and make sure it was sent from the person we thought it was being sent from, which is the authenticity part. Pretty important to have that there. We see it used quite a bit with some encryption protocols as an encryption suite, and very common to have these here being seen in IPsec and TLS. And this is where you'll start seeing them as you're configuring IPsec. This is one of the options that's there, and being able to have that there. And in fact, the verification of HMAC becomes very important in these tunnels, where we have to make sure the data sent on one side is getting to the other side and there's no man in the middle. And this is one of the ways we do that. So if you did answer A, verify data sent over an IPsec tunnel, 38% of you did get that one absolutely right. Well done. The rest of the options available here have to do only with encryption. Encrypting a file on a flash drive, doing full disk encryption on a laptop, encrypting data with a private and decrypting with a public, which is not how you do it. It's more of a digital signature for that. And protecting credit card data sent to a web server. Again, that's not what we use HMAC for. HMAC definitely being able to verify data sent over an IPsec tunnel, very commonly used to do exactly that. So if you answered A in this case, you did get that one absolutely right. And for those of you interested, I did mention that I'm updating my videos for the 501. The new exam objectives are already published. Yes, absolutely. So you can download those right now. Of course, there's not going to be a lot available for quite some time. Make sure you think about those. Yeah, about half of the 501 is brand new content. So it is completely new exam. I think it's laid out better, but there's a little bit more of a challenge in creating new content and putting all of this into the videos and putting them in the right order and finding the right content. It's very time consuming. If you want to get the objectives, professormesser.com/objectives. We could have almost figured that one out ourselves, couldn't we? Well, as you can tell already on the Security Plus exam, it is big, extensive. There's tons of things to go through on the Security Plus exam. And I've already mentioned being able to do things like IPsec tunnels and encryption and group policy and all of these other things. It becomes a little bit more of a challenge now if you don't have a Windows environment, you don't have a way to do an IPsec tunnel, you've never worked with these technologies before. How are you going to get some hands-on? And one of the things that I like to use for even some of my videos is to be able to go into a lab online in a virtual environment and work through all of these. And that's one of the things that is available in the live labs from GTS Learning. They have their own set of extensive Security Plus labs where you can learn everything from application control to working with these port numbers to doing encryption to handling policies. They're all in it. And it's a virtual environment that all runs in your browser. Here's my browser. This is live. So this is the browser right now. I'm powering on the devices. I've got a lab diagram over here and a step-by-step where I could step through each one of the lab entries. They've got screenshots for every single step. This one is, in this exercise, you'll see two different authentication methods in action by forcing the user to log on to access a web server. And we can look at the course materials to do that. They give you the course materials when you get these live labs and work through them. And everything's in this browser screen. It's all online. There's no application you have to install. There's nothing special you have to do. You don't have to have a ton of memory and lots of hard drive space and licenses for operating systems or any of those things. All you have to do is have a browser. And being able to work with this browser and connect to a machine. This is a live Windows machine. Here's Wireshark running on the server. So it's like, look how fast this is. It's like you're right there. It's like it's running in real time with what's going on. It's taking packet captures. So now I'm doing packet captures on this virtual network and being able to work through this. It's beautiful. I have this here. And this is running at the same time. I've got another client here. Let's go over to this client machine. We're going to connect to that and run some different things. Here's Nmap will run on this client machine. I'm sort of going off the script of the lab, but that's okay. It's a virtual environment. I can do anything I want at any time because it's a full-blown Windows system. It's not fake screens and you having a fake thing that you're copying and pasting through. That just doesn't make sense. It's all there and available, and special prices available. Instead of paying the $169 you would pay on the GTS Learning site, you can follow this link, which takes you to the GTS Learning site and makes the whole thing $109, which includes their Security Plus book. It includes the live labs. It includes Q&A. There's a ton of things there and available. You can learn all about it at professormesser.com/seclabs. And I want to thank the folks at GTS Learning for their support as well. We would not be able to do any of this without really their support and being able to have their live labs available to you. I think it's a nice thing that you might want to consider if you're working towards your Security Plus exam. Another thing to consider is this next question. The question is, you've been tasked with protecting your critical customer web-based application against SQL injections. Which of the following would be the best option for doing something like this? So would it be a spam filter, an IDS, a web application firewall, a load balancer, or an application-aware firewall? I want the best option. You can see, indeed, it does say best option in this question. For answering these, make sure you look through all of these to really figure it out. We've got a very specific scenario given to us. A lot of the questions on the exam are scenario-based questions. So this is one that would be really good. So you've been tasked with protecting your critical customer web-based application against SQL injections. It's a very specific application. It's a very specific attack that you're trying to prevent. And you want to know the best option for being able to do this. This becomes a little bit more of a challenge if you haven't worked with any of these before. If you've never worked with a spam filter, an IDS, a web application firewall, a load balancer, and an application-aware firewall, you may not know what the best option is. And I want the best option as it fits into this large scale, large generically named object, this object thing that you would put into spam filter, IDS, web application firewall, load balancer, and application-aware firewalls. You know, some of these products do different things, but I'm most interested in you giving me the best. And in fact, in the chat room, people are saying, yep, on the exam, you'll get the word best all the time. And this is another example of where best really does apply, because you could answer multiples here. There are multiple things here that could protect this critical customer web-based application against SQL injections. In fact, I can see at least 3 of these 5 could be chosen as technically a correct answer, but I'm not looking for a technically correct answer. I'm looking for the best answer. And whenever you get a question like this, one of these will jump out at you as really being the best answer. There's not going to be any where it's a 50-50. It doesn't work that way. They're really asking if you know the content on these exams. And this is absolutely one whenever you step through it. Let's see how we did with this. A number of you have answered this one already. How did we do? Well, 56% of you, definitely a majority, said web application firewall, but a tie for second was 20% said both IDS and application aware firewall. And single digits for spam filter and single digit, 1%, said load balancer. So this is one where you really do need to know which is the best. And for a problem like this, like a SQL injection, there's no question. The best product for finding SQL injections of any kind, whether they are a known or unknown method of injecting that SQL traffic, is with a web application firewall, or what we call a WAF. It's something that very commonly is looking at the way the application flow is going, and it's allowing or preventing traffic based on how people are using the application. This is something where if you have an application that's not built very well, earlier in the study group, we were talking about an application that was allowing things that shouldn't be happening. You got bad programmers. Very commonly, web application firewalls are put in front of bad applications to prevent those exploits from getting through. So it's another layer of application security that you can put right on top of these applications. So even if they did a bad job of doing input validation and a fuzzing would be able to find a problem, if you put a web application firewall in front of it, now the fuzzing doesn't work. Now you can't put junk into the application because the web application firewall is going to prevent the junk from getting there. And one very specific kind of junk that we're talking about right now is the SQL injection. So this definitely prevents SQL injection. It's able to understand and recognize the input to the application. It's a very non-trivial device to get configured and up and running, but once you have it running for your applications, works exceptionally well at being able to do this. If you take credit cards, this is something that's required if you take credit cards. All the credit cards on my site are actually handled and managed by a third party. So I don't store any of the credit cards coming to my site intentionally. But the site that it is stored on is protected with things like web application firewalls because it is a standard of the payment card industry's data security standard, or a PCI DSS is what you'll hear people talk about when it comes to security of credit cards. So if you did answer in that 58% web application firewall, you'd be absolutely right. Now, why wouldn't it be application aware firewall? These days, these next generation firewalls are perfectly capable of stopping SQL injections, but they are most commonly done with known SQL injections. They're looking for a very specific kind of signature. So they won't stop all SQL injections in the world, just the most common ones. You also see this with IDS, another scenario where an IDS is looking for a specific signature for a SQL injection, but if it goes outside the scope of that signature, it can't see it any farther. Whereas the web application firewall works at a completely different level. It works at that application level. It's examining the traffic coming through. It's doing an input validation. It's a lot more intelligent with how it's operating with the application. That absolutely is the one that should jump right out at you. And indeed, in this case, there really is no other best option here. It is C, web application firewall. No question about it. And the 59% of you that answered that got it absolutely right. Let's get one more question in. I know we're at the top of the hour coming up, but I can get one more in before we finish this up today. And the question is, which of the following best describes data security in the cloud? In the cloud. What would best describe data security in the cloud? Would it be A, cloud-based applications include built-in security checks? B, all cloud-based data is inherently available. C, firewalls cannot protect cloud-based data. D, cloud-based data is encrypted by default. Or E, data in the cloud can be accessed by anyone. Which of the following best describes data security in the cloud? It's one of our biggest problems these days with data security is that now we're moving the data. It's now in the cloud. And now we're seeing things happening every day, it seems, in my Twitter stream is a big company that put customer data in the cloud, but they forgot to do some things, and now the data is available to the world. This is a challenge. So how do we get this to work right? It's not an odd question. It's pretty straightforward. Which best describes data security in the cloud? This is one you really want to think about. And if you've never worked in doing these with cloud security, becomes a little bit more. Yes, you knew I was going to say CLUD. I always say CLUD. The cloud computing models are a little bit more of a challenge. Yes, the latest was Verizon. The one I saw today was Dow Jones. 2.2 million customer records made available. That was today. I guess they announced it yesterday. Verizon was another tens of millions. Those types of things. A little bit, yes, it is crazy to think about that. Let's see how we did with this one. Not so much there. Cloud-based applications include built-in security checks, 41%. 22% said cloud-based data is encrypted by default. 21% said all cloud-based data is inherently available. And 11% said data in the cloud can be accessed by anyone, and 6% said firewalls cannot protect cloud-based data. Let's talk about security in the cloud, what we need to think about risk-wise. The problem with the data in the cloud is that it's there, it's available, and it could indeed be potentially accessed by anyone. I kind of gave this one away when I was describing these security problems that we ran into this last few weeks with people just putting the data out there, but forgetting to put any type of security controls on it. So the data's out on Amazon S3. There's a big file there, but no gate. Nobody locked the door to the data. And this is our biggest challenge now with all the data out there. How do you properly secure it? Your security is going to be handled probably somewhere outside the cloud. Usually it's your team that is located somewhere else. Your data is out there, a little bit more of a challenge. This was what happened last month. 14 million Verizon records were exposed because somebody uploaded this database to Amazon and it was just there. You could have found this database and downloaded it and had 14 million customer records with Verizon. Now, what's interesting is this was found by someone who was doing research in security. They found these records and told Verizon, hey, you know, all your stuff's out here, right? So it was a good guy that found the data. Verizon found the data. They locked it up and found that nobody had actually downloaded it. The researcher found it before the bad guys did. So fortunately, they were able to confirm from the logs on Amazon S3, nobody else downloaded this data. That was pretty fortunate for Verizon, but the risk was still there. And this is one of our biggest problems with cloud computing, is that data in the cloud can be accessed by anyone. So 11% of you that chose that actually got that absolutely right. Cloud-based applications do not have built-in security checks. So that's not even valid. It's not a real thing. So it definitely would not be A. All cloud-based data is inherently available. Well, it's not. Unfortunately, the cloud does go down, and this happened to Amazon a number of months ago where they just lost everything on S3. And all of these companies around the world suddenly were out of business. So it is not inherently available. I wish that it was. Firewalls cannot protect cloud-based data. Not true. There are cloud-based firewalls available that you can put in front of this data. I wish Verizon had done that. Cloud-based data is encrypted by default. Again, not the case. It is not encrypted by default. So the only real option you have here is that data in the cloud can be accessed by anyone. Indeed, it can be accessed by anyone. That's the right answer here as well. Being able to step through all of those becomes a little bit more of a challenge. All the questions that you've seen today come directly from the CompTIA exam objectives. The objectives can be found at professormesser.com/objectives, and they tell you everything you need to know on the exam, step by step, all the bullets. This is what I use to create my videos, is I go through everything that's in the exam objectives. That's exactly what's in my videos, and that's exactly what you're going to see. I don't go outside the scope of those, and I make sure I cover every single one of them. And you should be doing the same. Use it as a master checklist. Being able to go through, yep, I know that. I know this one. I know that one as well. You'll be able to go through all of those and make sure you know them as well. We've come to the end of our first hour. We've got another hour of Q&A coming up over the phones. Nothing formal like we've just been doing. I'll have open phone lines. You can ask whatever questions you'd like in the chat room, or you can call in as well. And you could, of course, do another QA with us where we do this interactive piece. We have more Security Plus questions in August, on August the 23rd. It's the 4th Wednesday of August. I'm skipping the first week of August. And we're starting the A Plus is the 9th. Network Plus is on the 16th. Security Plus will be on the 23rd. So if you're looking to do more of these Q&As with me, I'll have more available for you on August the 23rd. And of course, you can always go through and go to professormesser.com/calendar to find out when the next event is going to be. It's maybe after August the 23rd when you're watching this. You can always go to the calendar and being able to do that. Well, we've got a lot more coming in the next upcoming weeks. Make sure you're always following us on Twitter and YouTube and Facebook by going to professormesser.com/those things. Go out to YouTube and smash those buttons. That's what the kids are telling me. I need to smash buttons. Go smash them. Security Plus course notes, don't forget about those at professormesser.com/securitycn. The voucher discount is available at professormesser.com/vouchers. And of course, the special pricing on the labs is available at professormesser.com/seclabs. Now, feel free to stick around for the next hour. We've got plenty more to go through in the call-in. We've got, of course, more questions that have come in on the chat. We'll be addressing those. I'll open up the phone lines. We'll do a lot more. But if you do have to leave us, thanks for joining us. Thanks for doing the Q&A. We wouldn't be able to do this without you. Thank you for your support of the website. Thanks for joining us in these live events. It makes it so much fun for everybody. And if you are sticking around, we'll see you in the second hour for the call-in show and the after show. But thanks for joining us on this first hour. We'll see you next time on the Security Plus Study Group. There is things that I need to do on this side to get those phone lines open. So that's what I'm going to do right now. Let's get those going. There's nobody here but me. So this takes a moment for me to click things and be able to make this happen. Let's host a show. Let's start the show. It's time to put on makeup. It's time to light the lights. Let's call in to this thing. Can't hear it because turned it off.
Thank you for calling.
No, thank you for all of that. I need to type a thing in that says this, and I put a £.
Enter your 6-digit PIN number.
That's redundant, but I'll do it anyway. And once I put that in, it should welcome me.
Welcome.
Well, thank you. It's very kind of you for welcoming me. And if you would like to call in, there's the phone number, 855-785-7545 is the number here in the United States. But if you are outside the U.S., you can call in on Skype absolutely free. It's a free number on Skype. No Skype minutes required with a +1 855-785-RJ45. That's 855-785-7545. Being able to do that. And we've already got calls coming in. So we've got a lot of questions that have happened during the formal part of the study group today, but we'll go through other questions here. Let me make sure I turn some things on so we can hear people, and let's talk to them. The 443 area code. Are you there, caller? What is your name?
Yes, hi, my name is Raza.
Hey, Raza, thanks for calling. What can we do for you?
Yes, Professor Messer. Thank you. First of all, I'd like to thank you for the amazing work you do. Like the videos and all the course notes, they are so brilliant.
You're welcome.
And I actually have failed my Security Plus exam like twice in the previous month. So I'm like in like real jeopardy. Like I have to attempt it like the third time. I'm preparing for it. And I'm like confused, like what study materials should I use for, preparing for it like the next time.
Well, there's a few things you can do, and this will apply for anybody who has sat for a certification exam and it just didn't work out. You didn't get the score you wanted. You didn't pass the exam. And there's one particular exam I've spoken about myself where I had to sit 3 times before I ever passed that certification exam. One of the things they give you, even if you don't pass the exam, you should get there's a sheet of paper that is printed out afterwards that gives you a list of all the things you got wrong. Now, did you happen to get that sheet of paper before leaving the testing center?
Yes, I did get that, and plus, I'm since then that time I've been studying for them the exam objective that I didn't do good on. So I'm actually using, you might have heard about Bell Gibson Security Guide book.
Sure. Yep.
It's like they recommend. It's like recommended like the best book, and plus I'm also watching your videos and like the pop quizzes. Plus also using different online resources if I can to prepare it. But I mean the exam questions like which I actually saw on the exam, they are very worded differently than the ones you see in the practice question areas. Plus the simulations, they are very different. So I'm like I want to ace the exam the next time, and that's really the hard part.
This is really a challenge a lot of people I think have with the exam is they try to find questions that match the exam, but you really can't count on that because CompTIA can change the questions around whenever they would like. And it's very hard to write questions to match what's on an exam because the exam could be completely different by the time you went in to take it. It could have a completely different set of questions and a completely different style. I don't recommend that people look for questions that closely match the exam. I tell people they need to know the content because it doesn't matter what they ask and how they ask it if you already know what the content is. The questions I asked today are probably not the same style that they use on the exam, or they might be. I don't know. I don't write my questions to match any other type of content that's out there. I just write them. I sit down, I write the questions, and I try to make them difficult so that we learn something during the study group. And you should be doing a similar thing. You should be looking at what's listed in the exam objectives and finding out what it is really about, digging into understanding what it means rather than just what the words are. Becomes pretty important when you sit down for the exam as well, because you want to be able to know what they're asking of you, regardless of how they ask it. And with performance-based questions, it's a similar thing. So another thing I'll recommend to you, since you've been through this a couple of times, is if you've got one particular book, go find a different book. And this happened to me on the A+ exam when I took it many moons ago, was that I read through an A+ book and I thought it was okay. And I got, it was an all right book. And then I got another book that really fit me better. I was able to read it. It connected with me better. Books are this way. They're written differently, and it's very, very independent to one person or another. There's no one best book for everybody. Everybody learns in a different way. You might want to consider getting another book.
Yes, I'm also using like other resources like Exam Cram book for Security Plus and like different like online questions. And they are quite helping me a lot because it has a lot of scenario-based questions, and it has like, if you like the ones you told today in the Q&A. So they were both similar to that. Plus also, I'm jumping straight into this Security Plus. I'm not doing like the A+ and Network Plus. So this exam, they say like the certification is very valuable in the market because I'm actually trying to get in the job market with the Security Plus. So they say like because most of the jobs they require like a Security Plus credential, and then they ask for like higher level security certification like CISSP or CASP or any like GSEC.
Yep.
So I'm also trying to pursue these after that too.
One of the things that you've done all the right things. You've got a good book. You watched the videos. You've done some Q&A. The last thing is the hands-on, getting as much hands-on as you can to solidify those topics and ideas. When you read about IPsec, for example, it's not an easy thing to understand what's going on. But if you built your own IPsec tunnel between two devices and you put all the configurations in and you watch the data going back, the idea of an authentication header and the ESP information, that all makes different sense to you when you're actually doing it. There's more muscle memory involved, I call it. So you're able to get a better perspective of what's there. If you configure a firewall to allow or prevent different port numbers and different applications from working, it's easier at that point to remember what those port numbers are. So if you have an opportunity to get some hands-on and step through some labs, a lot of the books have good labs in them. The live labs I mentioned today were good. There's other labs you can do from other places are good. But get some hands-on as well, because I think that might give you just enough to get over the hump and get you that Security Plus certification.
Yeah, sure. And if I pass it, like, which I'm praying that I pass it the third time, so what other security certifications you can recommend me that I go after this one? Like the CISSP or the CASP?
The path you take for certifications will be different than anybody else's path that you have out there. And that's because in your neck of the woods, there's different geographies in the United States and indeed around the world where different certifications have different value associated with it. And different certifications have different value by a hiring manager. Some organizations are looking for different kinds of certifications. Some organizations like you to be well versed in a particular manufacturer's security technology. So they may be asking you to get a Palo Alto network certification or a certification from Cisco with their security certification, or get a checkpoint certification. Those are very specific to a manufacturer. Or some may say, we want an industry certification. We want you to get a CISSP or work towards that. You obviously have to have practical experience in the industry before you're able to earn that. But that's considered really a gold standard in the security market. Everybody knows the CISSP. It's well respected. That may be a good one to work towards, but everybody is a little bit different. And I worked for a security startup that ended up going public. I had Security Plus certification. I'd written a book on Nmap, which helped me get in the door for this particular employer, but I had no other certifications in security. And yet I was able to get a very high-end position, a senior systems engineer position with this next generation firewall company. So it just depends on what you're up against and the environment you find yourself in and what the employer is looking for. Everybody's a little bit different.
Yes. Yes, so I just have last question from you that, the Security Plus, if I get that, because I live in the Maryland, D.C. region.
Sure, yep.
So if I get the certification, so is it like, you can get like any startup job, or, you can try to get entry level into some security company, or like, security, ID security?
Yep. Especially in your area in Virginia, Maryland, anywhere there's federal government, Security Plus is one of those entry-level certs you have to do any type of work with the federal government, either working for the federal government or being part of a third party that is contracting with the federal government. So it's really a bare minimum. That's your starting point. You kind of do have to start there and then move up from that perspective. So I think you're starting at the right place. Don't be worried that you didn't pass the first couple of times through. Like myself, sometimes it takes the third try to get through that certification. But one of the advantages that you have is you're now comfortable with the process. You know the type of questions that are going to be asked of you. On the third try, you'll probably see some repeats, which may be some gimmies for you, and you can kind of get through those and go to the next thing. But that's one of those that it really is just staying at it, studying the best you can, getting the book, the video, the Q&A, and the hands-on to make it work. And you're going to end up, if you know everything in the exam objectives, you're going to end up getting a good score on that exam.
Definitely. All right, sir. Thank you very much. And the work you're doing, I'm actually waiting for your 501 videos and 501 content. I know I will not be taking the exam. I will be just taking with the 401 exam format, but, I will be waiting. I will watch those videos when they come out. So I'm really excited to see new materials coming out.
Me too as well. Thank you. I appreciate the call.
Thank you, sir, and thank you very much. Have a nice day, sir.
You too. Take care. Yes, I am working every minute of the day on the 501 content, and I do this every time I create a new course. I always say, this is going to be the best course ever. And I'm working on the 501 content. It's going to be the best course ever. Some good stuff in here because I get to build on what I already have. I did the 301 exam, the 401. Now this will be the 501. So I already have a lot of the content done. I just get to add to it and use some of the experiences I had working in the security industry and add to those. There's so much is going on with security, obviously, to work through those. Let's go back to the phones. Looks to be an international caller. Are you there, caller? What's your name?
My name is Alex.
Hello, Alex. Thanks for calling. What can we do for you?
First of all, I'd like to thank you for all you're doing.
You're welcome.
And, really, you explain the same material as I've heard others explain, but you just do it as a man from the industry, and it shows. So, first of all, well done.
Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate that, and hopefully that it helps everybody. All the craziness that I've seen, maybe I can add a little perspective.
My question is, I am currently in the last stage of studying for the 401 exam. I've done the A+, and I just skipped the network. I think of doing it later, but right now it's security.
Okay.
Because I do a small part of security in my position as a IT support engineer.
Perfect.
The question is, I'm doing this not just to pass the exam, but to learn new material regarding the security industry and really to just know stuff, not just pass the exam, because I know certifications are good, but they're not enough. Experience is much more respected than actually showing you're certified. Therefore, I'm interested in this security, and I'm reading the articles, the materials, not just questions, but I'm actually interested in new materials regarding the current situation, the market, and strategies and technologies. So the question is, in the exam objectives, I understand you are currently doing the 501 tests, and I'm already studying the 401 material. What are the differences between the 401 to the 501 tests? And in general, which subjects are CompTIA wants the new guys to know that is currently on the market? Which new technologies will be introduced in 501 that I perhaps should do and wait a bit, just to learn about them, to know them, and because I don't care really doing the exam now, doing it later, if the material is interesting and good enough. So, what's new?
Well, that's a big question. The what's new on the 501 is I'm working on a document that actually goes into detail that describes this, but I did this last time on the study group, is that you can download the 501 exam objectives right now from CompTIA's website, and you can download both the 401 and the 501 and put them next to each other. Now, as I mentioned, the 501 will be released, the exam will be released in October. The 401 exam is not going away until July of next year. So you've got a choice over which one of these you take, but I'm just going to scroll through the 501 exam objectives, because what I've done is I've marked on my exam objectives which exam objectives are the same between both of them. They're marked in green. Anything that's new, I've marked in yellow. So you can see the exam starts off, and by the way, the exams are in completely different order now. It has been completely revamped. And from what I've seen so far in working through the exam, I like the new order. I think it makes a lot more sense. Information is put together a lot better. But that's more of a where things go in design. Has nothing to do with the content itself. But one of the things you'll notice as I scroll through this, and you can always watch the stream afterwards, is that there's a lot of yellow. Yellow is new. Yellow are things that are in 501 that were not in 401. There's entire sections of the exam that are brand new. And there's some information that is older that's still in there, that still applies. But as you can see as I scroll through this, there's a lot of yellow. And I think I gave the number of 50% of the 501 exam brand new. It's got to be close to 50%, if not maybe even a little more. Look at all the yellow. There's just tons of yellow. You'll get to certain sections in here that are more green like these. But boy, there's a lot of new content on this exam, and you really do have to go through it with a fine-tooth comb to see what's different. There's a purple in here. Those are places where there's a little bit of 401, and there's a little bit more that'll have to be added to it in here. And what I'm ended up doing is really adding to almost all of this as I'm going through it. There we're into section 6 already, and you can see just the public key infrastructure has been greatly expanded. The green is what was in the 401. Look at how much new content. You'll be able to see this when you watch the stream. Just tons of new content there. So that's what you're faced with. If you're someone who's thinking, I'll take the 501 exam, having the new content there is incredibly going to be incredibly important for you. You can't use the older 401 materials and hope that you're going to be able to get everything you need to know for the 501 exam. Not going to work. You're going to have to get 501 specific content to be able to do that. So make sure that you go through and understand all of everything that's going to be expected of you. It's not going to be as simple as taking the old content, but the content that's there to kind of comment on the things you were saying earlier, it's all spot on. The security market doesn't change a lot between all of the things that we've seen over the past 3 years. Not much has dramatically changed. Not like operating systems where a new operating system comes out every couple of years. With security, we're really just finding new exploits. People are taking advantage of cloud-based exploits more than they were 3 years ago. So there's a little bit more cloud-based on this set of questions than it was with the older exam. Those types of things are in there. I think this was also CompTIA's opportunity to really go through Security Plus and make it an easier exam to understand. On the 401, some topics are split between different sections. Now they brought all these topics together. And so they'll talk about routers, but they're talking about routers from a security perspective. Whereas with the old exam, they just said, what's a router? And they didn't really put a security spin on it. Now they ask you, what's a router? How do ACLs fit into that? What about anti-spoofing? How does that fit into security on a router? So you can see it goes a little bit deeper than it did on the 401 exam. And I like that. I think that's a good place to go. But again, doesn't matter which set of questions you take, you still get the Security Plus exam. So it's really about what you want to do and how you want to do it. You had mentioned wanting to get more perspective. And one of the things that I do, and I think everybody should do, is always keep track of what's going on in the industry. If you go out to a lot of these security blogs, make sure that you follow security blogs. I've got a number of them here. Krebs on Security should be a huge one on my list for being able to watch the latest goings on with active threats and exploits and things that are happening on the industry right now. You may want to check out Packet Storm. Of course, go to SANS. They have their Internet Storm Center, which always has some latest information on it. And keep checking around with the different websites out there that are the industry trade magazines that are now almost all digital at this point, because there's always something from a security perspective going on. I've got a Twitter feed full of security content, and I found the one today that popped up and said, guess what? Dow Jones let 2.2 million customer records and left them open out on the internet. The way I found out about that was a Twitter stream going by. So you should think about doing those types of things, because as you're studying, you're reading about problems with cloud computing and people misconfiguring things. There's a practical example of somebody putting something out on the cloud and misconfiguring it. So you're able to kind of blend together the real world with the things you're learning in Security Plus. The Security Plus content's spot on. You're going to see these things pop up in the news all the time. I lose you, Alex.
I see.
Oh, there you are.
Yeah, I'm here. You know, I'm calling you from Israel, and we're basically kind of a small superpower in the area of information security. Now, I always worked as IT, and at some point I wanted to actually learn security because I was interested in what happens inside the wires. And, you know, just being here with Checkpoint with the headquarters of it and so on, it just got me interested. I just want to say again, thank you for what you are doing. I don't think people just thank you enough, because that's a rare thing. Somebody just take the time to do it for whatever reasons, and I'm really respected. I do have one small question, request of you.
Sure.
When you do the 501 videos, if it's possible just to mark or divide them, or to show the people that learned for the 401, if you can mark somehow the part in the 501 videos that is new. So the people who already prepared for the 401, for it to be easy for them to understand where is the new material, and, you know, just go over the new videos for the 501, because from the objective I've seen, this is a really interesting material for a security professional to know.
I agree. One of the things I'll do then, and I haven't done this with any of my other releases, when I finally finish the videos, I'll take the CompTIA exam objectives that I just showed on us live. I'll take those same objectives and I'll make them available for download. It's hard to put that into the videos to show what's new because things almost I revamp everything. And some of the content gets thrown together. It's in a completely different order in the 501. So it's hard to do it on a video by video basis, but I'll put my exam objectives out there that show the colors of what's new and what's changed. And that way, if somebody did want to cross-reference, they wouldn't have to do that themselves. I have two of these. I have one that shows what's new on the 501 that was not in the 401. And then I also have one that shows what was on the 401 that's no longer in the 501. So I have to do it from both sides. So I'll make those available. So if somebody wanted to be able to use those, they'd be able to at least reference them. It's one of those things that's good for about a month, really about 3 to 6 months. And then after that, everybody's kind of converted over to the new version. But I think in that time frame, I'll be glad to make that information available.
I see. Okay. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Alex. Appreciate the call. And Alex is, by the way, absolutely right. He's in a great place for security. Israel is one of the leading parts of the world for network security. I worked many years for a next generation firewall company that was, the idea was designed and built from the ground up by Israeli nationals. They brought it to the United States. They were able to build a business on it. There's more acquisitions that have been happening. Checkpoint, of course, is based there along with many, many other security companies. It is amazing what's happening there. It's very exciting what's happening there. I love to see it. Let's go to the 310 area code. Are you there, caller? What's your name? Thanks for holding.
Hi, Prof. Hello.
Hey, what can we do for you?
Hi, my name is Obi. I'm calling from California.
Hey, Obi. Thanks for calling.
I just want to thank you for your material. Personally, I'm a visual learner, so when I watch your videos, you just make something that seems so complicated, so easy to understand. So I just want to thank you.
Very welcome, sir.
I have two questions. When do you think your 501 material is going to be released? When exactly? Do you have any dates in mind?
The 501 that I'm working on now, I have no dates in mind. It's one of these things where I don't have anybody sitting over my shoulder because I'm the only one here. That helps a lot. When you're the boss, nobody can tell you when you have to get things done. But I am driven to get them done as quickly as possible. But it's a balancing act for me. I want to get content done. One of the things that I've seen in the industry, in the training industry, are people making content available that's just good enough. And that's never been my mantra. From the very beginning, when I designed this company and I planned this company and I created this model, I wanted to create content that was free, but it would be better than anything you could buy. So it's important for me to create high quality content that is better than anything else you could get anywhere, no matter what the price happens to be. That takes a little bit longer. This is why I think a lot of companies don't create that. I also don't have formal production schedules. I make the content and it gets done whenever it gets done. So it's a little bit, there's no time or date I could put on it, which drives some people crazy, and I absolutely appreciate that. I just don't have a way to give you a time frame. What I'm doing, though, is I create the entire course before I even record a video. So I'd get the entire course done so that the course notes can be created, because the course notes are something that people can use regardless of what videos or other tools they're using to study from. So at least those will be out there for people to take advantage of. And then now I have all of the videos available that I can then start really shotgunning through. I can rapidly go through the videos once I create it. The hardest part, the slowest part, is creating the content behind the scenes and having it ready for camera. Once I sit down in front of the camera, that's relatively fast. It still takes, weeks and weeks to do, but that's the quote unquote easy part. Is sitting in front of the camera and saying what I've finally taken all this time to write down. So I wish I could give you a date. I wish I could tell you, here's the day it will be available. I just don't have one. It will be available when I finish it. I'm trying to get it all done by the time the exam is released. I don't know if I'll make that date or not. If I do, that would be great. If I don't, that's just the way it's going. So just keep checking. You're always welcome to send me a message on my website. You're always welcome to send me a tweet. You're always welcome to send me a DM. You don't even have to follow me or I follow you. Just send me a DM directly on Twitter and I'll be glad to respond back. But the answer is probably going to be, I don't know yet. I'm still working on it. I'm trying to get through it. It's just one of those things.
Okay, and 401, the exam is going to be on till next year, right?
Correct. July? Yeah, you'll be able to take the 401 exam until July, the end of July next year. So right here today, a year from now, as we're speaking, you'll still be able to take this exam. Okay,
cool. I want to thank you. I use your videos, I use your material for A+, Network Plus, and there's no other material that's as good as yours. Really.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate it. Thanks for your call.
Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
Quite honestly, I do the easy part. I make the content. You're the one that has to take the exam. That's the real challenge. In the chat room, quickly, before I go back to the calls, somebody asking if I'm planning to do any CCNA videos. I'd love to do CCNA videos. Right now, I'm concentrating on Security Plus. So after that, we'll see what happens after Security Plus. Have not committed to that yet. Maybe I will, maybe I won't. I've got content that I could record, but I don't know if I'm planning to do it yet. Do I record the entire course at once or one at a time as they're ready? As I mentioned, I create all the content first, and then I go through and create the videos. And usually I do a block of videos at a time. So I'll sit down and record 6 to 8 to 10 videos, and then I'll edit those videos and put them online. Then I go back into, I don't go back into the studio. I stay in the studio and I record, sitting right here, I record 10 more, and then I edit those and put those online. So they're in chunks as they are ready. So I'm not going to release 200 videos at once. They will be, a chunk at a time. There'll probably be not as many as 10. They'll probably be smaller amounts because I'm noticing these videos for this time through, I'm doing I think it's going to be fewer videos, but a little bit longer for each one. Not much longer. I want to, 15 minutes tops is what I'm shooting for. And some of these I may have to cut into separate videos, but they're not going to be the 2-minute videos you saw on the 401. Those were just too short. I needed to make them more cohesive and add more background to some of them. So that's what I'm shooting for. Back to the phones, 917 area code. Are you there, caller? What's your name?
Yes, hello. My name is Yusuf.
Hey, Yusuf.
From New York City.
Welcome. What can we do for you?
Yes, hi, how are you?
Good.
First of all, I would like to thank you very much for what you're doing for people that's preparing certification and also for people in the industry.
Quite welcome,
really
sir.
Using your information. So I have a few questions for you.
Sure.
If it's okay. So the first question is I ask in the chat room, what is the best way to encrypt data in rest, to protect data in rest? Data in a flash drive or on a hard disk storage. What is the best way to encrypt it?
Well, best is a relative term. It depends on what your requirements are. And this is, of course, one of the topics on the Security Plus exam is knowing about data at rest and what you should worry about. What most people are doing, and I guess this could be interpreted as the best way because it seems that's the best way for most folks, is that since the data is sitting there in a file and it's on a USB drive, it's on an SSD, it's on a hard drive, it's on a backup tape, whatever it is, people are generally doing full disk encryption. That's a very common way to do it, probably because it's automatic. It's one that is integrated into the systems that are already in place. The keys to unlock those can be stored in things like Active Directory. You don't have to think about doing it or turning it on or turning it off. It just happens that way. So I don't know if that's the best for everybody because everybody's requirements are a little bit different. But generally speaking, one of the most popular ways to protect data at rest is certainly with a full disk encryption. It tends to be a very common one.
And in order to do that, we use like a software or a tool in order to do full disk encryption?
It's usually built into the operating system. So if you're wanting to do full disk encryption, it's part of Windows. You'd be using BitLocker, for example. That's because then you don't have to think about it. It's part of the OS. You can encrypt the entire operating system and it still works, which is magic. And it all seamless and it works with Active Directory. It's just an easy way to do it. A little more complicated in a Linux environment. A little bit easier in a Mac OS environment. There's a full disk encryption on Mac OS as well, but those are the very common ways people are doing it.
Okay. And I wanted to ask you regarding my path of certification. I already have a CCNA, all the CCNA, and the Microsoft Server 2008.
Nice.
And I've been working in the field, thank you, and configuring different firewalls, working with IPS and different security devices.
Great.
And I'm willing to take the Security Plus next month. And after that, what I want to do is to do the CEH for ethical hacking, for penetration testing.
Okay.
Because what I would like to work now is really to, as a security administrator, as an information security administrator, which is going to be writing policies for security policies for the company, and in the meanwhile, be able to do some penetration testing on the different devices and check the vulnerabilities, and then write the policies based on that. So I just would like to ask you, what do you think about the CEH and the penetration testing certification?
I'm probably not a good person to ask about the certified ethical hacker because I don't like that the EC Council, which administers that test, has had numerous data breaches. Probably one of the most well-known was the one that there was a data breach. The hackers managed to get hold of everybody's personal information. And then one of the people that had taken this exam was Edward Snowden, which now, of course, is a very well-known name. Snowden. And they put his picture of his passport on the EC Council's homepage. You can Google EC Council and Edward Snowden, and you'll see all the write-ups associated with this. They really didn't do a good job of protecting people's personal information. It always makes me crazy when I have to send people an ID. I recently had to do this. I had to send an ID through the email, and I encrypted it, and I sent it to the person in a way that they could decrypt it. They had to call me and say, I can't see this. I'm like, that's right. You need the password, and here it is. I'll give it to you over the phone.
Decrypted.
Right. But still, I don't know what they're going to do with that once they've decrypted it. It's now on their local network. They're doing something with it. It's somewhere. It has my personal information and account numbers and things associated with it. There's a little bit of trust you have to have with making sure people keep things secure like that. I haven't seen anything lately from EC Council that makes me think that it's just as insecure as it was. They probably, of course, have made things a lot more secure because that was so public. But that was not the only time that happened for them. That was maybe their second public breach. So I'm a little wary at handing people that kind of content when they've got that kind of track record. That said, the content on the CEH is really spot on. If you look through what you have to know for that exam, there's good content on there that if you knew that, you'd be pretty familiar with running these tools and being able to work through them. I think that's where the CSA Plus is really trying to compete with that on a one-to-one level. It's still two very different exams, though.
Which one is better? Which one is better?
Then that's the real question. Which is the better one to go? Actually, I was going to tell you, based on the experience you have and based on the certifications you already know and the things you've already done, this might be the time that you get some vendor-specific certifications. If you're looking to get a job with an organization that has a lot of Palo Alto Networks firewalls, getting the Palo Alto Networks certifications can be very valuable to you. If they have Checkpoint, you would be getting Checkpoint firewalls. If they have another manufacturers, they have WatchGuard or even the newer Cisco stuff, maybe getting the Cisco security certifications or the WatchGuard. It just depends on what they're using. Sometimes having those industry vendor specific certifications in security can be more valuable than a generic certification. But again, that depends on the hiring manager. It depends on what path you want to follow. It depends on your geography and what people are looking for in your particular area. One of the things when you're at your level right now, one of the things that's going to help you the most is knowing people in the industry. And if you haven't already, have a look at some of the user group meetings in your area. ISSA is a very popular one on the security side. ISSA is a security. ISSA.
Okay.
They are let me pull them up. This is the Information Systems Security Association, ISSA. And ISSA has at least monthly meetings in most areas. I've done a number of presentations to a number of ISSA chapters in the Eastern United States. And the people that are in those meetings are the people from the biggest organizations in that area that are doing security. They're the ones managing the firewalls and the IPSs and setting up the SIMs and doing all the internal mapping and testing and penetration testing and everything they're doing. That's who's at these meetings. It's a great opportunity to see people come in and talk about the latest security technology, but perhaps even most important for you, it's an opportunity to meet people. And because there's always, pizza and food set up. There's a time you can, and people they're at the user group meeting. They want to meet you. So it's very common to step up to people and go, hey, my name is James. I'm with this company. Good to meet you. Here's my card. Let's swap cards. What do you do? What do you guys, you guys are, when you're hiring for security professionals, what are you looking for? They'll be able to tell you, we'd love to have people that have this certification, or they have this experience, or they're familiar with this technology, or we just bought this new firewall and it'd be great to have somebody familiar with that. That's where you meet them. I tell people all the time that I must have worked with 10 different or more different companies throughout my IT career. And the first job I got in IT, I didn't know anyone there. But every other job after that, I knew somebody who worked at that company. They may not have been the hiring manager. They may have been in another department, but the people hiring me knew the people in the other department and knew that I'd work with them. And how do you know them? I met them at the ISSA meeting and we talked about firewalls. They mentioned you had this type of configuration and that you're working on this new project. It was very exciting. So there was a connection there. And that's the important part in our industry, especially in security, that you make these connections. People want to hire people they can trust. People like to hire people they know. And that's two big things you can do by attending these meetings. It's not something where you walk into the first meeting, okay, I'm done. I attended my first user group meeting and now I know everybody and now they trust me. Now, this is something that happens over a long period of time. You would need to be interested in this type of work to be able to attend these. And I got to tell you, the content they go through at these meetings is really interesting. You learn about some of the latest technology. So take advantage of those things as well. Sometimes, as people have mentioned earlier, it's not just about the certifications and it's not just about the experience. It's about who you know and what they know of you. And that's something you can give yourself an extra leg up across the other competition when you're looking for those jobs.
I will definitely check that out. Thank you very much for this information.
Absolutely.
I have a last question for you, if it's possible. I don't want to take time from
the sure. Go ahead.
Just for the content that you have, it's really good. It's really complete. But there is a way to really have it more perfect and more complete. I don't know if you're going to agree with me, but most of the questions that you have in the exam, I will say roughly 30% or 40% are questions from the other exam that's been there. And it's really helped the candidate to be more comfortable taking those exams, because even though it's very important to know the logic behind things, but also to try and test out the other version of the exam that's been through. So if there's any way that you can have a hold of the different exam that's been there and make it available for the students.
It's one of the things that CompTIA does not do is they don't give out any of the content from previous exams. This is for someone who's taken other industry exams or exams in other industries. Sometimes you can get the companies doing those exams will give you last year's version or the previous version for people to go through. CompTIA doesn't do this. They consider all that information to be proprietary and confidential. You've signed off, if you've taken the exam, a candidate agreement that says you'll not even mention what you saw on this exam. And it's one where it's all private to them. There are places on the internet that have gotten hold of previous questions and put them out there, but they're violating CompTIA's copyright. And I don't think anyone should be looking at, in fact, some of that information, not exactly the most accurate either, I've found. So you really can't trust that. All the best we can do is write our own content to be as close to what CompTIA has done in the past, or at least give you the same ideas around getting to the final answer that CompTIA does. But it's an ongoing challenge, and because we don't have the previous questions, we're really taking our best guess.
Okay. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for all the work that you do, and have a wonderful day.
My pleasure. Thank you, sir. You too as well. It's one of those challenges. We just don't know what's going on there. Let's go to South Florida, 305. Are you there, caller? What's your name?
How you doing, sir? My name is Mark.
Howdy, Mark. What can we do for you?
Well, just want to first, like a lot of the other callers have stated, thank you so much for a lot of what you do. You were actually the first person. I purchased your DVD for the A+, and I successfully passed the A+, the Net+, the Security+.
Excellent.
Because of all your DVDs.
Fantastic.
I just recently passed my Server Plus and my Linux Plus. And I'm thinking about doing my RH CSA. Okay. But I was kind of curious as far as, do you have any plans to do maybe the CSA Plus, the new cybersecurity one that came out this year?
Yeah, this is something that has come up in the chat room already today. I have been watching the CSA Plus. The CSA Plus is an exam that came out a number of months ago. It's a relatively new exam from CompTIA. Yeah. It fits in between the Security Plus and the CASP exam. So it's something in the middle. The CASP. Probably fits best. The best comparison, like I was just mentioning, is it kind of is a competitor in many ways to the CEH. Not a one-to-one comparison, but that's kind of the market they're going after, is they want something that sits in the middle where it's more of a practical knowledge, working with IPSs and working and understanding how to capture the packets that you need to see and doing mapping on the network within MAP. And those types of things can be pretty useful. The problem, though, is the CSA Plus is relatively new. It is in a market that is very full of certifications. You just mentioned a few, and we mentioned others today. It's not like there was with A+, Network Plus, and Security Plus. We're in the market of certification exams. Those kind of have a very specific place and not a lot of competitors. My challenge, as being a single person who's doing this, and it's a two-person company that's working here, three with my better half, who is technically the vice president. We have one employee, and we're trying to grow this and make something of it. I have to focus on things that have the best and most popular visibility because I'm putting videos out there, and as long as people are watching the videos, we're doing what we need to do from a company perspective. CSA Plus doesn't quite have the traction yet, and I'm keeping my eye on it. I haven't given up on it yet, but it hasn't gotten the same traction as other security exams have. And I'm not sure that it's even where I want to go with what I'm doing from a business perspective. There's all kinds of interesting decisions that have to be made along those lines. But I'm keeping my eye on it. I'm going to let it cook for a while. I haven't completely said no, but I haven't said yes yet either. I want to see how it goes and how popular it gets. It may be next month that it takes off and it's the best thing ever, and I'll jump right in and get some CSA content done at that point. The content is right up my alley. I worked with those types of things for many years, so it kind of would make sense to do that. I just have to make sure somebody's there to watch it.
Yep. Like you said, it's just started. I believe it was February that they just released it. They had the beta testing before that. Right. And I was just kind of curious because with your content, it was the one that I was successfully passed my A+, Net+, Security Plus. You didn't do Server or Linux Plus, or at least I didn't see any.
Nope. Right.
But I just picked those up and I passed the two exams. I guess my next question would be, besides I'm hopefully thinking like what you're saying, trying to take the CSA Plus, but it has to get some sort of traction to see if it's worth my time to get it, and then maybe the CASP. But like the previous call, not the previous, I guess the previous caller was mentioning the CISP, that takes experience. You need to have 5 years, I believe, minimum, and then your employer has to write off on it. That's something I'm also looking into. But I guess the next one is I just really got into this market. I have 3 college degrees, and I kind of want to get new tools. So like Nessus is very expensive to get the license and everything like that, you know, vulnerability scanners and stuff like that.
Yep.
Do you have any recommendations for like a cheap, you know, something that's, you know, I don't care if it's, you know, a virtual machine on the internet or something to really test applications like web application firewalls or vulnerability scanners or something like that?
Sure, absolutely. There's almost an open source derivative of everything that is mentioned on the Security Plus exam. There's some things that are not. Still hard to find a DLP solution that's open source. There used to be one. There's no longer one that I've seen that's of any note. There probably is one out there that's not much. One thing I did the other day that I found really a lot of fun was loading up pfSense and loading it up with Snort and running it in a VM to watch what my machine was doing and to be able to set firewall rules, to be able to configure IPS alerts, to be able to watch for certain things happening from an IPS perspective. That was a ton of fun. And it really applied very nicely back to things I had done on the latest, newest next generation firewalls. It's not, obviously the technologies are not quite the same, but the feel and the style of what I was doing on pfSense was very reminiscent of the all-in-one next generation firewalls that you would find from Palo Alto Networks and Checkpoint and Cisco and others. So that's something I had a lot of fun with pfSense. You can find it at pfsense.org and do things like that. Plus, now you're able to walk in to a hiring manager and say, oh yeah, I'm running pfSense. I've got this running. If you're talking to the security manager, they'll know exactly what you're talking about. You can tell them how you configured your IPS, the things you found. You're going to find something on your network that you did not know was there. You can tell them about what you found on your network that you did not know was there.
Have open port or something.
In open port, you found some malware you didn't know was there. You found somebody doing something on your network you weren't expecting. You found your machine doing something on your network you weren't expecting. Yep. And you were able to tune these things or at least manage or identify it. That's some pretty good stuff because effectively that's what we're doing in the enterprise. That's what we're doing in these large companies, just on a larger scale. Being able to talk to a SIM, there's plenty of SIMs out there. Maybe you integrate pfSense with Splunk. Splunk has an open source or at least a free version. So you can take all your pfSense data, put it into Splunk, create some reports. You're doing exactly what the enterprise is doing, except you're doing it at home on a smaller scale. You're creating your own reports. Who's my top talker? What's the #1 application that's been going over my network? What are the top port numbers that have been communicating? What is a list of the top IPS alerts for the last 24 hours? Are they alerts I need to tune? Do I need to get rid of them from my report? Are they things I do need to know about? Those are the questions security professionals are asked every day with what's going on their network. And there's obviously a lot more research that has to be done in the enterprise, but it's the same thing. It's the same content, the same alerts, and the same process. This is an opportunity for you to do it at home and have something to walk in and tell stories about when you have those interviews.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I don't want to take any more of your time. I know you got quite a few callers probably calling in, but I just want to say thank you, and I really appreciate what you're doing.
Thanks, Mark. Thanks for holding, and good luck.
All right, take
care. Sorry, got you right at the end there. Let's go to, we've got a little bit more time left. My voice is still holding out, so we're going to keep going. Just a little bit more. The 760 area code's been holding for a while. Thanks for holding. What's your name?
Hi, this is Matt.
Oh, you broke up a little bit. What's the name?
Matt.
Oh, thank you. Thanks for calling. Was it Matt?
Yes, exactly.
Well, what can we do for you today? Thanks for calling in.
First thing, thanks for what you're doing. It's helping me a lot. I'm taking Security Plus in September. I'm starting from study guide, but I'm seeing your videos, and they're very helpful.
Fantastic. You're quite welcome.
I have a question for you. I was thinking of getting into the security field. I'm a cybersecurity and network security graduate, and I wanted to take on OSCP after that. do you think that can give me the leverage to go after something like bot bounties or something like that? Because I have.
You said you were looking at taking something. I didn't quite make out what that was.
I was after security class. I wanted to go for offensive security certified profession.
Got it.
Do you think that's a good certification to get into the pen testing field or something like bot bounties or something like that?
In fact, that's the one that a lot of people go to next because it is so focused on penetration testing. And this is sort of the balancing act that I tell people to be very careful about in security, which is the term penetration testing. It is one that is a very popular term to throw around in the security field. Pen testing, it's exciting. It's got a sexy name. It's something that everybody would love to do. But the reality is there's not a lot of jobs out there that do pen testing, and even fewer where pen testing is even part of the job description. There's very few people in the world that all they do is pen testing. They go from place to place to place and they do pen testing, or they do it remotely. There's not a lot of people doing that. It's more common to see people do pen testing as part of their normal job description or part of their job description. And it's perhaps even more, it's probably more usual, it's more common to have people in IT security who just don't do pen testing at all. It's just not part of what they do. Because in IT security, you're dealing with policies, you're configuring a firewall, you're defining and setting up your IPS, you're setting up URL filtering, you've got SSL decryptions, you're dealing with your SSL certificates and your internal certificate authorities, you've got your SIM that's set up that you're doing reporting, you're trying to figure out all of the alerts that came in from yesterday and the things associated with those. And somewhere in there, you have to have enough time to actually do some not reactive work, but more proactive by doing something like pen testing or network mapping, which is complex in itself to be able to do. So if you are interested in pen testing, though, it's obviously fun to do. You never know what you're going to find. And the OSCP is a very common exam that people go to when pen testing is really what they want to do.
Yeah, I see. Anyway, I was talking about pen test in a very wide sense. What I really want to be is a white hat tapper more than a pen tester.
I think you're on the right track.
And
then.
Anyway, I was an information security analyst, and so I like the defense side too.
I think that's a perfect jumping off point then. The OSCP is a great exam to take you through beginning to end on the pen testing side. It kind of gives you the basis of what you want to be able to do from a real world perspective, which is great. And since you already have the background of those other things we mentioned, this is maybe a part, and you'll see this in security all the time. For those of you that aren't in security, this is what happens is you get into security and then you start focusing down to a particular set of skills because you can't do everything in security. So you might want to focus only on pen testing with, of course, a broad knowledge of everything else. Some people focus on the SIM and doing reporting of those things and handling the syslog information. Some people focus on the firewall and setting up the firewall rules and the IPsec tunnels and integrating that. So I think you're absolutely right. I think OSCP is a good place to go.
Okay, thank you so much.
Absolutely. Thanks for calling.
Thank you for your time. No problem. Bye-bye.
That's, as I mentioned earlier, so many different places to go, so many different steps to go. Once you get past Security Plus or maybe the next certification up that's more generic, then it becomes more specialization, whether it's a specialization for the vendor or it's a specialization for the technology like OSCP and doing something with pen testing. Well, now we've got to another full hour. We have hit the end of a full hour of calls. That brings us to the second full hour of what we've been working on. Thanks for attending today. Thank you for going through that first hour and all the questions that we had. The chat room has been great today with the things that we had been doing and the questions you've been putting there. Thanks for your input with those. Would not be able to do these live events without any of that. Of course, we have another study group coming for Security Plus in about a month. The date will be August the 23rd is the next Security Plus study group. Of course, before then, we're off for 2 weeks, and then we're back for the A Plus study group. A week after that will be Network Plus, and then finally the Security Plus week after that. So there's plenty more to come. If you're here watching this live now, thanks for attending live. If you're watching the replay, we'd love to have you on the live event, either to participate in the live Q&A or on the call-in show afterwards. And of course, we can talk about anything you'd like. And as you can tell, it tends to go in all kinds of different places. Well, that is pretty much ends our study group for this month. Thanks for joining us. We will see you next time on the Security Plus study group.